Welcome to my channel. Today we will be visiting the Seminary Ridge Museum at the northwest part of the town of Gettysburg. This building played a key role during the Battle of Gettysburg as a strategic lookout point, a key battlefield site on Seminary Ridge, and one of the largest Union field hospitals. It housed wounded soldiers from both sides, witnessing intense combat on its grounds during the first day of fighting. This is the view of the museum from the field outside. Here is the view from the car park just in front of the museum. In 1862, this museum was a Lutheran seminary. This view is facing the northwest of the town of Gettysburg. Ahead would be where the Confederate army would be coming from. Here is another view of the battlefield. This land would be heavily contested during the first day of the battle. General Buford knew his cavalry would have to delay the Confederate advance to buy time for the rest of the Union army to arrive and fortify the strategic area around Cemetery Hill at the south east of the town. This is another view of the seminary from further afield. During the morning of the first day, Buford and his staff positioned themselves at the cupola on top of the seminary to get a good view of the battle unfolding. Okay, once we get our tickets, we can proceed to the fourth floor where the exhibition starts. Up here, they frame it as the military struggle weapons, uniforms, and the view that commanders used to understand what was coming. People often credit Buford and other Union observers with using this high ground early on July 1st. And later that same day, the ridge falls under Confederate control. In this room is displayed actual photographs of what the various views from the cupola would have looked like before the day of the battle. This floor covers mostly the details of the battle, including battle scenes. Muskets used by the infantry on both sides. By this time, muskets are still muzzle loading, but are now using percussion caps for more reliable firing and rifled barrels for greater accuracy. The sabers, revolvers and carbines used by the cavalry. Note that the carbines were breech loaders which allowed for higher rates of fire. Cavalry troopers also carried more than one revolver, which also increased their rate of fire. One of the biggest killers during the battle was artillery. Here are displayed some of the shells and equipment used for the cannons. Of particular mention is the efforts of Lt. Col. George F. McFarland. He led the 151st Pennsylvania Regiment, the so-called schoolteacher regiment, because it contained 100 educators. This regiment fought a rearguard action on Seminary Ridge to buy time for the Union troops to fortify the southeast of the town. The 151st sustained a 75% casualty rate. Okay, now we go down to the third floor. Here the tone flips. This is the medical struggle. A seminary building turned into hospital space, with the brutal logistics of care surgery kits, improvised wards, long recovery, and what survival actually looked like afterward. Unfortunately for many, as antibiotics had not yet been discovered, the only way to save the wounded was amputation. The museum has several exhibits that describe this gory practice. Here is an actual photograph of a Union aid station where an amputation was carried out. The Daughters of Charity are a Catholic society of apostolic life. During the Civil War, they were famously known as the Angels of the Battlefield for their role as nurses and humanitarian workers. On July 5, 1863, just 2 days after the battle ended, a group of about 12 to 16 sisters, led by Father Francis Belando, arrived in Gettysburg to begin nursing duties. They established makeshift hospitals and cared for Union and Confederate soldiers alike. Okay, we now proceed to floor 2. This is the part most people don't expect. Before the battle, this county is already a fault line, slavery just to the south, freedom seekers moving through, abolition debates, and even churches splitting over what faith demanded in a country that couldn't agree on what human freedom means. Is freedom dependent on the color of one's skin? Both sides of the war convinced themselves that each was doing the will of God. Notice here that the Presbyterians did not get reunited till 1983, and the Baptists have not even reunited. This display is dedicated to Samuel Simon Schmucker. He was a prominent Lutheran pastor and theologian who founded both the Lutheran Theological Seminary and Gettysburg College. He was an outspoken abolitionist and publicly denounced slavery as a national sin and an insult to God. Due to his well-known abolitionist views, Schmucker was forced to flee Gettysburg before the battle to avoid being captured or targeted by Confederate troops. While he was away, Confederates ransacked his home and used his office and belongings indiscriminately. During the Battle of Gettysburg, slave catchers were Confederate soldiers who conducted a systematic slave hunt during the invasion of Pennsylvania. This was a very cruel tactic, and the objective was to terrorize freed slaves. The Union began the large-scale, official organization of black regiments in early 1863, following the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation. Prominent figures like Frederick Douglass lobbied the government relentlessly, arguing that military service was the surest path for black men to secure full citizenship. By the war's end, approximately 180,000 black soldiers and 19,000 sailors had served, fundamentally changing the outcome of the conflict. Okay, we have come to the end of the video. This last section covers the aftermath of the battle. Total number of casualties amounted to 51,000, with 3,155 deaths on the Union and 4,700 on the Confederate side. The scale and horrific nature of the deaths at Gettysburg were the direct catalysts for creating the Soldiers' National Cemetery. This is today known as the Gettysburg National Cemetery. After the battle, the Confederate dead were largely excluded from the official Gettysburg National Cemetery, which was reserved for Union soldiers. Their remains were left in shallow, often unmarked graves on the battlefield for nearly a decade. The eventual relocation of these soldiers was driven by private efforts rather than the government. This ends the video. I hope it has been educational or entertaining. Thank you for staying till the end. If you have enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I will leave you with a view of the museum from the front. I hope you will have the opportunity to visit one day.